Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome to a deep dive into a place that, well, it's always popping up on travel wish lists. El Nido, Palawan.
Oh, yeah. It's got that global reputation, hasn't it? Beach paradise, the place to visit in the Philippines.
Totally. And you see the photos, the videos, and you just get it.
You really do. We're talking like unbelievably beautiful. Those limestone cliffs, the super clear lagoons, those white sand beaches everyone raves about.
Exactly. So for this deep dive, we've gathered quite a bit of material. It's a real mix.
Uh-huh. What are we working with?
We've got your standard travel guides, some details from booking sites, the practical stuff, then reviews from actual travelers, people who've been there.
Okay, real experiences.
And even a personal travel video diary, which gives this great, ground level perspective.
Oh, nice.
So,
So we get the glossy brochure view and the what actually happened view.
precisely. And our goal today, our mission, is to really cut through all that noise. We want to give you the essential insights for navigating those famous El Nido Island hopping tours.
Right, help you figure out the options, what it's actually like, how to prep, so you can have that amazing trip everyone talks about.
Yeah, we'll get into the incredible nature, obviously the lagoons, cliffs, beaches, but also the practical things, like how do you choose a tour? What do you really need to pack? How do you even get there?
Okay, let's do it. Where do we start?
Let's maybe start not on the perfect islands, but in El Nido town itself.
Huh.
Because one source, that video diary actually, gave a pretty frank picture of arriving there.
Ah, okay. Yeah, I remember that. They described a real contrast, didn't they, between the famous natural beauty you expect and the actual streets in the center of town.
What did they say?
Well, things like road excavations happening, sidewalks being really narrow, kind of cramped,
Oh, yeah.
and getting around involves tricycles, which they found fast and maybe a little chaotic. Felt a bit unsafe, even.
So maybe not ideal for just a relaxed wander.
Doesn't sound like it, in the main town area at least. And that same person noticed something interesting: very few elderly tourists around. Which suggests, yeah, it might be genuinely challenging if you have mobility issues, navigating those central streets.
But despite that kind of described chaos, does it still feel lively? Is there an atmosphere?
Oh, definitely. The sources paint a picture of a buzzing nightlife, lots of tourists, a real energy. But yeah, comes with noise and busy streets.
So you need to find your escape hatches.
Exactly. That traveler found quiet spots down by the sea or ducked into cafes with air conditioning. It's that kind of place, intense energy mixed with these pockets of calm.
Makes sense.
And one other thing, prices. They noted things are a bit pricier in El Nido compared to other parts of the Philippines.
Not surprising, given how famous it is.
Yeah, supply and demand, I guess.
But look, let's be real. The main event, the reason you go to El Nido, it's the island hopping, right?
100%. That's the absolute core of the experience. And it's pretty organized, actually. There are 4 main standardized tours: Tour A, Tour B, Tour C, and Tour D.
Okay, A, B, C, D. And each one takes you to a different part of the islands, the Backett Archipelago.
That's the idea. Each offers a slightly different flavor. Some focus more on lagoons, others on beaches, maybe caves, or more secluded spots, snorkeling. They really try to show you, as the guides say, everything that makes El Nido such a tropical paradise.
Right. So let's break them down. Tour A seems to come up all the time. Most popular, locals recommend it first.
Yeah, Tour A is definitely the crowd favorite. It usually hits a small lagoon or big lagoon. There's often a choice or limitation there based on daily slots. Then Shimizu Island, Payam Payong, Secret Lagoon, and it wraps up at Seven Commando Beach.
Okay, Big Lagoon. That sounds like the star attraction for Tour A. What's it like?
Descriptions are pretty epic. Rippling clear waters, rock formations around you, like a marine waterway. Another source just raved about the crystal clear turquoise water and towering limestone cliffs.
Wow.
And apparently it gets deep in places, like up to 30 meters. You can actually see corals and fish way down.
Incredible. But there's a catch, right? Something important from the sources about actually getting into Big Lagoon.
Yes, this is crucial. You can't just jump off the boat and swim in. The sources are clear. Big Lagoon is only accessible by kayak.
Only by kayak.
But here's the kicker. Renting that kayak is mandatory. And it's an extra fee, usually around 250 Philippine pesos per lagoon.
Per lagoon. So if you do small lagoon too.
Potentially another fee. And the sources really stress this, that kayak rental is often not included in your tour price, even if the tour description mentions the lagoon.
Right. So that's an extra cost to budget for. Good tip.
Yeah, and also be aware swimming might actually be restricted inside the lagoon itself. It might purely be a kayaking experience.
Okay, so manage expectations, Budget for the kayak. No, it's kayaking, not necessarily swimming.
No.
What about small lagoon, if that's the alternative?
Similar vibe, really. Peaceful, beautiful, clear water, and again, mainly about the kayaking.
Gotcha. Secret lagoon. The name alone sounds intriguing.
Doesn't it? One source said it was straight out of a storybook. Apparently, you have to sort of duck through this small opening in the rocks to get into a hidden pool inside.
Sounds amazing. Easy to get into, though.
Maybe not so easy. The sources mention the entrance involves walking through shallow water, but there are sharp stones underfoot.
Ow.
Yeah. Travelers said the boat staff often had to help people navigate it safely. Adds to the adventure, I guess. It also has this cool backstory about being a safe spot for fishermen during storms.
That is cool. Okay, Shimizu Island. What's the deal there?
That one sounds more like your classic tropical island stop. White sand beaches, described as having this untouched natural beauty. A place to just, soak up the sun, chill out.
Nice. And Seven Commando Beach. Usually the last stop.
Yeah, that's often the final spot to relax, maybe take a swim in the clear blue water. It's got all those iconic El Nido elements.
No.
White sand, turquoise water, palm trees, dramatic cliffs. One source specifically said it's a great sandy beach for swimming. Oh, and Payong was also mentioned as a stop on some Torre trips.
The video diary source had some really vivid real-life moments from their tour, like jellyfish.
Oh, right. Yeah, they saw loads of red jellyfish washed up on Seven Commando Beach. They mentioned they weren't the dangerous stinging kind, but could cause some redness or itching if you touched them.
Good to know.
And there was that story about someone getting back pain while kayaking in Big Lagoon.
Yeah.
And one of the Filipino guides just tied their kayaks together and paddled for them. Super resourceful.
That really speaks to something else that Traveler pointed out, how helpful and practical and responsible the Filipino tourism workers generally were.
Totally. That kind of service really stands out. And they also mentioned the watercolor in Big Lagoon, just how incredibly blue it was, almost like it was filtered in real life.
Yeah.
And navigating that narrow passage into the lagoon was another highlight moment for them.
All that paddling and exploring definitely builds an appetite. What's the food situation on these tours?
Usually a buffet lunch is included. It's often cooked fresh right there on the boat while you're anchored somewhere scenic.
Sounds pretty good. What kind of food?
The sources mention things like grilled chicken, fish, maybe some pork or shrimp, salads, fresh fruit like mango and watermelon. Pretty standard, tasty boat trip fare.
Nice. And there was that quite powerful incident during lunch that one source shared. Really drives home a point about visiting these areas.
Yeah, that story really made an impression. So this American traveler on their boat threw some leftover food scraps overboard, thinking, feed the fish.
Okay.
But the boat staff reacted instantly. They jumped in the water and meticulously collected every single scrap.
Wow. Seriously?
Yeah. The source explained why there's just this incredible sensitivity about protecting the marine environment in the Philippines, especially in these protected zones like El Nido.
Right.
And the penalties for throwing anything into the water, even if you think it's just natural waste for fish, are apparently really, really high.
So the big takeaway there is just how seriously they take environmental protection. Zero trace.
Exactly. It's a very potent reminder, leave nothing behind, absolutely nothing.
Okay, so that gives us a really good feel for Tour A, the big one. What about the others, B, C, and D? What do they offer?
Right, so Tour B, that one's often billed as the Caves and Secluded Islands tour. You're looking at spots like Antulula Island, Kadugnan Cave, Cathedral Cave, Snake Island, which is actually a sandbar, and Pinagbuyutan Island.
And the vibe for Tour B?
Generally less popular than A or C, according to the sources. So the upside is likely fewer crowds.
Okay. Then Tour C, that's another really popular one, right? Up there with A.
Yeah, Tour C is definitely a major contender, known for hidden beaches and shrines. Stops usually include Secret Beach, different from Secret Lagoon, Hidden Beach, Metenlock Shrine, Taputan Island, and Helicopter Island, which is, shaped like a helicopter.
Okay.
Super popular route. Oh, and an important logistical point from the sources. Apparently, you can't do combo tours anymore, like A and C in one day. It's strictly one standard tour per day now.
Good to know. That leaves Tour D. What's its specialty?
Tour D is often highlighted for secret beaches and snorkeling spots. It might include Small Lagoon, depending on availability, Nat Nat Beach, Cadlo Lagoon, Pisanigan Cove, Paradise Beach, places like that.
So more focused on underwater stuff.
Yeah, the sources call it a snorkeler's paradise. Great for checking out marine life and corals, and generally visiting beaches that are less packed than the ones on A and C.
Okay, so you've got these four options, A, B, C, D. How does someone actually decide which one is the best for them?
Well, based on what we've seen, it really depends on what you prioritize. If seeing the absolute most famous, iconic, postcard perfect spots is your goal.
Then A or C.
Exactly. Tours A and C are the ones most recommended by locals, by other travelers. They hit the big names. But, and it's a big but, you have to expect crowds, potentially lots of other boats and people.
And if crowds aren't your thing, if you want something quieter,
Then Tour B or Tour D are probably better bets. You still get incredible scenery caves, unique islands with B, great snorkeling, and more hidden beaches with D, but you're likely to share them with fewer people.
so it's a trade-off. Famous spots versus fewer people.
Pretty much. There's no single best tour, just the one that aligns with what you're looking for in a day trip.
Makes sense. Now, beyond the actual route, there's another big choice. Do you go on a shared tour, sometimes called a joiner tour, or do you spring for a private boat? Sources had thoughts on this too.
They certainly did, based on their own experiences. With shared tours, the potential downsides mentioned were things like having to wait around for everyone at each stop, or maybe feeling rushed if your group is faster than others.
Yeah, I could see that.
You're also sharing the guide's attention, obviously. And one source even felt like food and water maybe got a bit scarce towards the end of their shared tour.
Not ideal. So what are the advantages of going private, assuming the budget allows?
Flexibility seems to be the number one thing. You can decide, hey, this place is amazing, let's stay longer, or whoa, that beach looks way too crowded, let's skip it.
Like skipping a packed secret beach, maybe.
Exactly. Or lingering at Shimizu Island if you have it all to yourselves. Plus, you get the guide's undivided attention. Sources felt this improved safety, and bonus, the guides were even better positioned to help take great photos for you.
Nice perk.
And practically speaking, with a private tour, you're guaranteed to have enough food and water for your group for the whole day. No worries about scarcity.
So it sounds like if you can afford it, private offers a significantly better experience.
That was the strong feeling from one source, yeah. They gave a strong recommendation for private if it fits your budget, praising the service, the value, the flexibility they got. They even specifically mentioned a local operator they used and loved.
Who's that?
GEA Travel and Tours, run by someone called Kuya Jerry. They raved about the experience with them.
Okay, good to have a specific recommendation. Let's talk logistics then. Booking and costs. Where should people actually book these tours? Online beforehand or when they get there?
The advice from the sources leans towards booking locally once you're actually in El Nido town. They found prices could be significantly cheaper that way compared to the big international booking websites.
Really? Like how much cheaper?
One person saw tours online for around $45 US, but paid only $25 booking locally. Another compared a local price of 3,000 Philippine pesos, that's PHP, to seeing similar tours listed on sites like Klook for around 13s, which is only about 870 PHP. So huge variations.
Wow, okay, so booking on the ground could save you quite a bit.
It seems so. But you can still book online through platforms like Klook, Get Your Guide, Viator. Many offer free cancellation up to 24 hours before, which gives you flexibility if plans change.
Right, so beyond the base tour price, which might be, say, 1,200 to 1,400 PHP for a joiner tour, what other costs do people absolutely need to factor in?
Okay, key things here. First, there's a mandatory ecotourism development fee. It's 400 PHP per person. You pay it on site, and it's valid for 10 days. This is separate from your tour cost.
Got it. 400 PHP environmental fee and the kayaks.
Yes, back to the kayaks. For lagoons like Big or Small Lagoon, where kayaking is the only way in, that rental is mandatory and extra. Budget around 250 PHP per lagoon for that.
And definitely don't assume it's included in the tour price.
Absolutely. Double check that. Also, if you need to rent a snorkeling mask, that's another potential extra cost, maybe around 150 PHP. Again, check if it's included or not.
Okay. But the lunch is usually included.
Yes, the buffet lunch is generally part of the package. That's one cost you likely won't have to add.
All right, so factor in base tour cost, 400 PHP environmental fee, potentially 250 PHP per kayak per lagoon, maybe 150 PHP for a snorkel mask. Good breakdown. What should people actually pack or wear for the day?
No, definitely wear your swimwear under your clothes. Bring a dry change of clothes for the boat ride back or afterwards. A sun hat is essential.
Sunscreen too, I assume.
Oh, absolutely. Lots of sunscreen. A camera, obviously. An underwater camera is a huge plus if you have one for those lagoons and snorkeling spots.
Anything else?
Insect repellent. One source specifically mentioned a lot of mosquitoes in certain areas. Also, really important, a dry bag or waterproof pack for your electronics, phone, camera, whatever.
Keeps everything safe from splashes.
Exactly. And finally, proper beach footwear. Don't just rely on flimsy flip-flops.
Why is footwear so critical?
Remember the sharp stones mentioned at the entrance to Secret Lagoon? And just getting on and off boats, walking on different types of beaches. Good water shoes or sturdy sandals are really recommended for safety and comfort.
Makes sense. And these tours, they're pretty much a full day, right?
Yeah, plan for about 7 to 8 hours out on the water. It's definitely a full day activity, so you can realistically only schedule one tour per day.
Okay, zooming out a bit, how do people even get to El Nido? Let's say from Manila or maybe from Coron.
From Manila, you've got two main choices. Fastest way, if you're short on time, is to fly directly into El Nido's own small airport.
Okay, direct flight.
The budget option is to fly into the bigger airport at Puerto Princesa, which is further south in Palawan. And then you take a van or bus ride up to El Nido.
And that van ride is the long ride.
That's the one, yeah. About 5 to 7 hours. Some tips from the sources for that route. Try to get the earliest flight into Puerto Princesa to maybe beat some traffic or just get started earlier. Consider booking the van transfer through your hotel, might be easier and maybe cheaper. And try, if you can, to get a front seat or the first row in the van for more legroom. It's a long ride.
Good tips. What about from Coron, another popular island destination?
From Coron, similar options. You can fly if time is tight or take a ferry, which is the more budget-friendly way.
And when's the best time of year to go for these island hopping tours, weather-wise?
The general consensus is the dry season. That typically runs from about November through to May. You're much more likely to get calm seas and clear, sunny skies then.
Ideal conditions.
Definitely. But, always worth checking the forecast closer to your trip dates.
Always. And there was one last piece of travel advice from a source, kind of philosophical but practical.
Yeah, it was about traveling in the Philippines generally, but it applies anywhere, really. The advice was to travel with flexibility. Things might not always run perfectly on schedule. Transport can be unpredictable.
So just roll with it.
Pretty much. Embrace the unexpected changes rather than letting them frustrate you. Seems like a healthier mindset for enjoying the journey there.
That is solid advice for any travel, I think. You mentioned that specific local operator recommendation earlier, GEA Travel and Tours.
Yes, that came from the source who had the great private tour experience. They specifically mentioned the guide, Kuya Jerry, and praised the company for excellent service. Kuya Jerry's local knowledge. Apparently, he even worked security for Survivor TV show shoots there years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And just overall good value and flexibility. It was presented as one example of a trustworthy local operator, acknowledging there are many others too.
Right. So it sounds like whether you're chasing those iconic views on Tour A or the hidden beaches of C, or maybe you prefer the quieter vibe of B's caves or D's snorkeling spots, El Nido really does offer something incredible.
Absolutely. The beauty is undeniable. And hopefully, understanding the practical side, the tour differences, the need for kayaks, the environmental sea, what to pack helps you plan better and just enjoy it more smoothly.
Totally. And as we wrap up this deep dive, I keep thinking back to that story about the food scraps, the staff immediately jumping in the water. It's such a vivid illustration of how precious and protected these places really are.
It really is. It takes that abstract idea of responsible tourism and makes it incredibly concrete, doesn't it? That small action on one boat reflects this huge commitment to preserving paradise.
Which really makes you think. When you're fortunate enough to visit somewhere as breathtakingly beautiful but also as fragile as El Nido, what role does your own awareness, your own preparation as a traveler play in keeping it that way?
How does how you prepare and how you act when you're there directly impact the future of that paradise for everyone? So what does this all mean for how you travel?